Let's talk about something that's probably crossed your mind at least once, maybe even more than you'd like to admit. Why does it feel like everyone has more money than you? Every time you scroll through social media, it seems like people are jetting off to exotic vacations, buying their dream home, driving fancy cars, or dining at restaurants that make your wallet feel lighter just by looking at the menu. Meanwhile, you're over here doing the math on how much rent is going to leave your bank account this month. It feels discouraging, right? But here's the thing. You're not behind. I know it feels like you are. But let's take a step back and look at why it feels this way. Social media, the news, even casual conversations with friends. Everything seems designed to make you feel like you're not doing enough, earning enough, or progressing fast enough. So let's discuss 8 reasons that you will relate to as to why you feel like you are behind financially and achieving financial freedom. 1. The timeline trap. When you feel like you're behind, what are you comparing yourself to? One of the biggest reasons people feel like they're behind is because, a lot of times, it's someone else's timeline they are comparing themselves to. Maybe your friend landed a high-paying job right out of college, bought a house at 28, or seems to be stacking up investment accounts like it's a hobby. Meanwhile, you're just trying to figure out how to pay rent and save a little on the side. We've all been conditioned to think that by a certain age, you should have your life together, whether it's dictated by societal expectations, family pressures, or the stories we tell ourselves about where we should be by a certain age. This timeline is dangerous because it's built on comparison. And that comparison is often unfair because there's no universal timeline for success. Just because someone bought a house at 25 or 28 or retired at 40 doesn't mean you're failing if you're not there yet. Everyone's journey is different, and there's no set path that works for everyone. The timeline trap is dangerous because it makes you feel like you're racing against the clock, when, in reality, your life doesn't need to follow anyone else's schedule. You're on your own timeline. Success doesn't have an expiration date. We all start from different places, and progress is never linear. So, falling into the trap of thinking you're behind because someone else hit a milestone earlier than you did is the quickest way to undermine your journey. 2. Invisible privileges and advantages. Let's talk about privilege for a second. It's something we don't often discuss when we compare ourselves to others, but it's a massive part of why some people seem to have more than others. Here's the thing. Not everyone starts from the same place. Some people get a head start, and it's easy to overlook that when you're focusing on the outcome rather than the journey. Some people start life with a financial safety net. Maybe they have parents who can help them out with rent or a down payment for a house, inherited money, had access to better education, were connected to influential people early on, enabling them to get a job right after college, or got opportunities you didn't even know existed. These are invisible advantages that can make a huge difference, but they're often not talked about. None of this is to say that these people didn't work hard, but if we're being real, the playing field isn't level or fair, and beating yourself up for not being where they are is unfair to you. It's not that you're not trying hard enough, it's that you're running a different race. They had a head start, and that's something you can't control. Everyone has their own set of challenges, visible or not, and comparing yourself to someone who had an easier start isn't going to get you anywhere. 3. You don't know what you stand for. Have you ever stopped and really asked yourself, what am I working toward? What does success look like for me? Not for your parents, not for society, not for your Instagram feed, but for you. When you don't have a clear sense of what's important to you, whether it's financial security, experiences, or something else, it's easy to get caught up in someone else's version of success. You start chasing things that don't actually align with your values, like a new car or a bigger house, thinking that's what you need to be successful. The truth is that success is personal. It's about figuring out what matters to you and pursuing that, rather than what society or social media tells you is important. When you know what you stand for, you stop feeling like you're behind because you're running your own race, not someone else's. 4. Unable to wing it financially. Let's be real for a second. Money doesn't just magically multiply. If you're feeling behind, part of the problem might be that you're not investing time in learning about how to multiply and grow the money you get to earn now. Many people fall into the trap of thinking they can wing it financially, but the truth is, building wealth takes education. Do you understand how to budget effectively? Have you learned about investing? How to invest the little extra money you have now? If you're not learning, you're standing still. It's easy to look at someone who's doing better financially and think they just got lucky. But the reality is that many people who are financially successful made a point to educate themselves. They spent time learning about investments, passive income, or how to negotiate better salaries. Knowledge is power, and if you're not taking the time to learn, you'll always feel like you're falling behind. 5. Internalizing other people's success. It's so easy to see someone else's success and take it personally as if their achievements somehow highlight your shortcomings. But here's the thing. Other people's success has nothing to do with you. Someone else getting a promotion, buying a house, or driving a new car doesn't mean you're failing. It just means they're having their moment. We've all been there, scrolling through social media, seeing people celebrate their wins and thinking, what am I doing wrong? But that thought process is a trap. Success isn't limited. Just because someone else is winning doesn't mean there's less success left for you. There's no quota for how many people get to be financially successful. Instead of internalizing someone else's wins, focus on what you can control in your own life. Celebrate your own milestones, no matter how small they seem, because those are the moments that matter in your journey. 6. You're forgetting the trade-offs. It's easy to look at someone else's lifestyle and feel envious. But here's something we often forget. There are always trade-offs. The person who has a bigger house might be sacrificing their free time because they're working overtime to pay for it. The friend who's always traveling might be deep in credit card debt to fund those adventures. We all have limited resources, whether it's time, money, or energy, and every financial decision involves a trade-off. You don't see the full picture of someone else's life, and you don't know what they're giving up to afford their lifestyle. Maybe they're making sacrifices you wouldn't be willing to make. The point is, when you envy someone's success, you're only seeing the outcome, not the cost. And when you forget the trade-offs, it's easy to feel like you're behind. But if you were to see the whole picture, you might realize that you're actually making choices that align better with your values. 7. You're following the wrong crowd. If the people around you are focused on material success, social status, or living beyond their means, it's going to rub off on you. You might start feeling like you need to keep up, even if that's not what truly matters to you. Surround yourself with people who share your values, who are on the same journey toward financial stability, and who understand the importance of long-term goals over short-term gratification. When you follow the wrong crowd, you end up chasing things that don't align with who you are, and that's when the feelings of inadequacy creep in. So, choose your circle wisely. 8. You haven't focused on you for a while. When was the last time you really focused on you? Not your job, not your family, not your responsibilities, but you. Sometimes the reason we feel so behind is because we haven't taken the time to check in with ourselves, to figure out what we need, what we want, and how we're going to get there. Life gets busy. We get caught up in work, bills, and day-to-day obligations, and before you know it, months or even years have passed, and you haven't stopped to reflect on your goals. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean being selfish. It means taking the time to make sure you're on the right path for you. When you haven't checked in with yourself for a while, it's easy to drift. You end up chasing goals that don't align with your true desires, simply because you're trying to keep up with what everyone else is doing. But when you take the time to focus on your own growth, you start to realize that you're not behind. You're just on a path that's uniquely yours. Remember, you're not alone in feeling like this. Almost everyone at some point feels like they're behind, like they're not doing enough, or like they're struggling to keep up. But the truth is, most people are dealing with the same challenges. You just don't see it because it's not something we talk about openly. The feeling of being behind is universal, but it's also temporary. You're not stuck where you are, and you're not failing because your progress looks different from someone else's. The only person you need to measure yourself against is who you were yesterday. Keep focusing on your journey, your values, and your progress. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. Thanks for watching this video, and do leave a like if you found it helpful and insightful.